What's going on, Detroit Lions fans? Welcome back. It is Thursday. We are 2 days away from the Detroit Lions playing their final preseason game of the year. Saturday afternoon, home game. Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town. If you guys are going to the game, be safe, get there early, have a good time. I unfortunately can't make it. Gave away my preseason game to my cousin so he could take his young son since I have to work. Game day episode will be out tomorrow. I'm excited. Before I record that, I haven't done it yet. If you guys have any questions about Saturday's game, leave it in the comments. I will try to address it if it's relevant, give you a little shout out. We'll have a little interaction. With the Lions wrapping up training camp and practices kind of winding down on the preseason stuff, with the media is no longer available to practices, from my understanding, if that's true. I think I saw that from a couple people on Twitter. I want to talk about this training camp now that it's wrapped up, kind of. And who just really stood out to me, who I thought had a phenomenal training camp. I'm trying to focus on keeping things positive here. I don't want to do an episode on who I don't think had a good training camp. I talked about Donovan Peoples-Jones the other day. I didn't really have a good time doing that episode. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I like to talk about positivity. This is a team with playoff aspirations, Super Bowl hopes. I want to keep it positive. I don't like talking about who's going to make the team versus who not. We'll let the dust settle. All right. I don't want to sit here and do projections on who's going to get cut. These are professionals. These are guys who are putting their lives on the line, their body on the line. It's not up to me to sit here and critique from an office in my home to say, hey, this guy's not going to make the team. I'll talk about who gets cut when that happens. That's Dan and Brad's job. I'll kind of come on here next Tuesday, do a little analysis of that and give my thoughts then. But I'm not doing an episode like that. I had someone ask me the other day if I was going to do something on who I think is going to make the team, and I just don't want to do that. I don't want to. I try to conduct myself as a professional. I don't want to say that a professional football player should not make the team. Just not my. I don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to doing that. So I'm not going to do an episode on that. But I'm going to talk about who stood out to me today in training camp, who I thought looked good. This is in no particular order. This isn't a ranking show or anything like that. Just 5 guys, 2 honorable mentions. I'll tell you why they're honorable mentions at the end of the episode. The most important piece for me this year, Jameson Williams. I have defended Jameson Williams since I've been doing this podcast, since day one. I think we really got going underway with this podcast, Detroit Den 3-3, and getting it going last year when he was suspended for gambling. That's kind of when we just began. And we've been defending him ever since, whether it was the gambling, driving around Detroit, giving out money and water to kids, all the criticism he got, the dropped passes. Man, I've been a Jameson Williams fan since he was at Alabama. All right, I was familiar with him when he was at Ohio State. Didn't want to see him. Michigan fan, glad he transferred, went to Alabama, had some crazy, crazy plays there and great production. I was very excited that the Detroit Lions moved up to get him. Before he got hurt in college football, I thought he was a top 3 receiver in that class, and he kind of got overshadowed by like the Chris Olaves and the Garrett Wilsons from Ohio State. And a lot of people were sleeping on Jameson Williams. When we traded up with the Vikings to get him in, I was ecstatic, and I knew it was going to be a process. I knew it was going to be a long road to recovery with his knee injury, and it's going to start paying off this year. I really feel that. His first real offseason, no suspensions, no nothing hanging over his head this offseason. He just kind of showed up, and he's just been playing football, man, staying out of the media. You know, he's answering the questions, but he doesn't have any negativity looming around, or there's nothing you could even portray as negativity anymore with Jameson Williams. And it's nice to have that second wide receiver spot just kind of shored up. I know we have some questions further down the line. The wide receiver 3 versus wide receiver 4, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn, they're going to get these guys the football, all right? They know what they're doing. I don't care about wide receiver 3 versus wide receiver 4 and production, 5 snaps versus 6. I don't care, all right? Jameson Williams is probably one of 2 weapons on this team where if you get them the ball at any position on the field, whether it's handoffs, reverses, pop passes, bubble screens, long passes, medium passes, it can be a home run. The other guy's probably Jahmyr Gibbs. So just sticking with Jameson Williams, man, what I've really noticed from small clips, and we haven't seen him in preseason games, and I'm perfectly fine with that, his route running looks better to me. And the handful of clips that I've seen, I think Jameson Williams just kind of came into this league as a lot of people just thinking he was a speedster. And even I'm a little guilty of thinking, oh, he's just a guy who could stretch the field. We can hit some deep passes. But what I've noticed in preseason, the clips that I've seen on Twitter and some of the beat writers that they're posting is his footwork and his hands. He's not dropping as many passes like he did last year. I went to some practices last year. I didn't get to go into any this year, unfortunately. But I've seen him drop some passes, and I'm sure it's happened, but it's not happening as often. And I see his feet being quieter. Quiet feet, not as thumpy, just a little bit smoother with his footwork. I watched a clip the other day of him in the end zone versus Kindle Vildor. And Kindle Vildor is someone who I think has played pretty good this preseason. I gave him a lot of credit in our last game day episode when we were wrapping that up. I kind of blew Will away when I said, hey, man, Kindle Vildor played pretty good. So I think Kindle Vildor's having a good offseason too, but he's not on my list. I'm just talking about a play against Jameson Williams. And Kindle was in a good spot, and Jameson Williams routed him up. Did a little stutter step, broke it to the end, got hit in the chest with a pass, touchdown. Jameson Williams has looked very well. And I'm not going to – I know I kind of got a little long-winded there talking about Jamo, but that's my guy, man. I defend him so much. I have to give a little extra. Next on my list, again, 5 guys. Number 2, not a ranking show, Levi Onwuzurike. What I love about Levi is the mindset that he's had this offseason. Respectfully declining to talk to the media, saying, hey, guys, locked in, going to the locker room, hitting the showers, going home, be back tomorrow, get back after it. Not seeing a whole lot in preseason games, but in practices, getting reps with the ones, dominating at times, winning his battles. We talk about that second wave of defensive linemen. Levi Onwuzurike is probably going to be leading the charge. He might even get some starter reps with DJ Reader being out at the beginning of the season. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I was very, very impressed with Levi Onwuzurike, and I'm impressed because this is kind of, I've said on record, this is kind of a make or break season for him. Levi has a lot to prove. He's got a lot to show. Drafted a couple years ago from Brad Holmes, and he kind of has been battling that injury bug. Missed some games his rookie year, missed all of last year with the back injury. Coming back, he knows, hey, this is a big year for me. I need to take football serious. I like his mindset. I like where it's at. I like what I'm seeing when I see it. Again, small samples, portions, but the clips that I see him dominating offensive linemen. I want to see that translate to an NFL field. I can't wait. I think it will. I think he's going to be very, very productive. All offseason, we've talked about how the Detroit Lions needed to address that position on the opposite end of Aiden Hutchinson. We have a platoon of guys. I think I don't toot my own horn very much, guys. I'll tell you that I was talking about this platoon, this bullpen of pass rushers on the opposite end for quite a long time. We have a handful of guys who can get this job done. James Houston, Levi Onwuzurike, Mekhi Wingo further down the road, maybe not this year, but in the future. Matthew Betts, possibly. Like, there's a handful of dudes on that other end that can get after the pass rusher. Marcus Davenport, if I didn't mention him. We're going to be okay. Levi Onwuzurike in the middle, getting another pass rush from a different angle, right up the middle, pushing those guards and centers back. I think Levi's going to have a big year. Third, small sample, very, very small sample, and I'm going to be careful with this one. Ennis Rakestraw. I thought at the beginning of camp he kind of was stealing the show. Every day we were talking Ennis Rakestraw. Ennis Rakestraw did this in practice. He was blocking or D'ing up this guy. He had some interceptions. He was kind of bouncing all over. Small sample when it came to preseason games. I know he only played a handful of reps versus the Giants. I think I saw he played like 15 reps. Very, very small portion. Didn't play against the Chiefs. I'm okay with that. Banged up. Hey, we're going to need this secondary and these young kids when the season kicks off. I'm okay with limited snaps. Our goal is to get to the season healthy, and we've had some close calls with Jahmyr Gibbs, Penei Sewell, just some dudes getting banged up. I know Terrion Arnold had the concussion thing. Let's just get to the season. All right. I'm okay with how they've handled Ennis Rakestraw, but for a rookie, I thought he had a phenomenal training camp, and I'd like to see him grow, see what his role is going to be. Is it going to be the nickel position? Is he going to be playing one of the outside corner positions? Time will tell. That's going to be a good battle, and we still got a couple more weeks, and we'll see what happens with roster cuts here in a couple weeks. Fourth on my list, Jake Bates. Listen, if you guys have been following me for a long time, I didn't even do a show when we signed Jake Bates, and it wasn't out of disrespect. It was just, it's a kicker, guys. I get it. Like, you really only talk about kickers when they make 65-yard field goals or they miss a 38-yard game winner. They're not a sexy position, but I do like what I've seen from Jake Bates. in practice hitting those 60-yarders. The only thing I need to see, a little bit more consistency. But what I do like is, like I said in our post-game show against the Chiefs, I like that when we get on the plus side of the 50-yard line and a field goal ties it or wins the game for us, we at least have that option with Jake Bates. He's got a monster leg. Only question is consistency. I know you can hit from 65. You also missed an extra point. And someone pointed out that, well, Jason Hansen missed 8 extra points in his career. His career was like 17 years or whatever it was. Like, we're talking 8 extra points over 7 years. Jake Bates' sample size is not nearly as big as that. I know you can hit the 60-yarders. I also need to count on you to get those extra points, because it almost came back to bite us by missing that 1 point. So just be a little bit more consistent. I love the leg. He's got an absolute cannon on his foot. It's amazing to watch. It's pretty cool to see. And I like having that option of, hey, we're north of the 50, we can win this game. Last on my list, Isaiah Williams. We've been talking about this kid here on this channel since he was an undrafted free agent. The day we signed him, I said, hey, man, you guys need to go look up his tape. This is a yak king, man. This kid gets the ball and he makes plays happen. He doesn't have elite speed, not elite athleticism, but he's a Swiss Army knife. He's very versatile. He can do a lot of different things. Someone called him a mini, or a poor man's mini St. Brown, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know. Let's hit the brakes on that. But seeing him play, seeing his tape, watching him play at Illinois quite a bit, I can see the resemblance. He's just the same type of receiver as St. Brown, primarily a slot guy. That's probably my only knock, is I wish he played outside a little bit more, but I can't change what he is. I can only focus on what he can do. He's a very, very good slot receiver, very good kick returner, punt returner. I know he put the ball on the ground in the preseason game. Wasn't a lost fumble. We got that back, dodged a bullet there. But Isaiah Williams has been pretty solid since pretty much season opened, since preseason camp started. He's been a consistent, hey, Isaiah Williams is making plays. You can see it in practice. You can see it in the games. It's translating from the practice field to the game field. And that's what I like to see for a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience. I do think he makes this team. I know there's been kind of a 50-50 opinion out there about Isaiah Williams. I don't know how you keep him off the team. I don't know. That'll be a question that I'll have to talk about. We'll worry about that next Tuesday, I guess. I'm not going to worry about it right now. We'll see what happens in the future, and we'll see what I have to talk about, but I'm not going to go down the road of making the team versus not. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. My honorable mentions. This is why they're honorable mentions. My 2 guys, Hendon Hooker, Sione Vaki. The only reason they're not on the main 5 list is just because I've been talking about them so much. I don't want to just keep talking Hendon Hooker, Sione Vaki. I got to change it up a little bit. This is not a Hendon Hooker podcast. It's not a Sione Vaki podcast. All right, if they're doing good things, I'll talk about it. But I feel like just the last week, I've done episodes on each of them. I just want to mention them real quick. They both played very well in the preseason games. Hendon Hooker, I'd like to see you be a little bit more consistent in practice. But really what it comes down to is game film. His game films look pretty good, especially against the Chiefs. The Giants, he got banged up, only had really 2 drives. The Chiefs game, he got the whole second half, looked phenomenal, exciting. I don't want to put a guy in the top 5 just because of the hype, but the tape is there. He did play very well. I'm not going to say he didn't. Sione Vaki, same thing. Drafted rookie, one of my most intriguing pieces, one of my favorite players that we drafted, Swiss Army knife again. We have a lot of guys who play positionless football, guys who can go out and play running back, receiver, punt return, kick return, defense, offense. It doesn't matter. That's what Sione Vaki does. I'm excited to see what his role is going to be in the regular season. Can't wait. We'll see what happens during cut day, guys. We'll get to that. And again, leave some questions for that game day episode I'm going to do tomorrow. I'll take some notes, give you a little shout out. We'll have a little discussion. Hit that like button, guys. I'll be back later with another show.